الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. We're still in the chapters of the Salah, some of the ahkam and the rulings and the virtues and things to be warned against from the book of At-Targhib wat-Tarhib by Imam Al-Mundhiri rahimahullah. And we reach the chapter where he says At-Targhib min al-mururi bayna yaday al-musalli, the warning against passing in front of the musalli when a person is making salah. Now many hadith that relates to this, one of which is the hadith of Abi Juhaym Abdullah ibn al-Harith ibn al-Sammah al-Ansari قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم لو يعلم المار بين يدي المصلي ماذا عليه لكان أن يقف 40 خيرا له من أن يمر بين يديه. قال أبو النضر لا أدري قال 40 يوما أو شهرا أو سنة. This hadith is in Bukhari and Muslim and others, where the Prophet ﷺ, he said, لو يعلم المار. Al-mar is the one that passes by. If he knows the one that passes by, بين يدي المصلي, right in front of the musalli. بين يدي المصلي, that means in front of him, not after a big distance. And that's something to be looked into with the urf, or what is to be seen, whether he is walking in front of him or not. So if someone is at the end of the masjid and he has no sutra whatsoever, and as we know that it's very stressed, and it's from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to pray to a sutra, even though the jumhur, the majority of the ulama, are in the opinion that the sutra is not an obligation. Some said it's an obligation, but a person should not choose to pray in the openness, since the Prophet ﷺ would always pray to something so that nobody would disturb his salah and walk in front of him. So if someone is praying at the end of the masjid and someone is walking in the front of the masjid, that is not seen to be that he's walking in front of him. But where is the distance where once you see the person, you would see that he's walking in front of him? Yes, some said it's where the position of the sujood, right after that, things like this, but it's more of how the urf, what is norm, or what a person would perceive that he's walking in front of him, cutting his salah, versus that he's walking from a far distance. So going back to the hadith, if al-mar is the person passing, if he knows what's ماذا عليه, what's against him, what's upon him with sin and transgression and so on, لكان أن يقف 40. Prophet ﷺ, he said that he would stay, then if he knows what's happening, what he's doing, he would stand and wait for even 40. Better for him than to pass between his hands or in front of him. Abu Nadr, the narrator of the hadith, he says, I do not know whether the Prophet ﷺ, he said 40 days or 40 months or 40 years. So if it's 40 days, still a long period of time. And this is something that if you pay attention, the shaitan would make sure that we become so much in a state of rush, because this is the way of the shaitan, right? You have to move now. You have to, so you find a way, and sometimes a person doesn't find a way except he would make himself justify himself to cut someone's salah one way or the other. And in a masjid like that with no pillars, we have to observe these matters. And when some of the brothers, they suggested, for example, to have a passage on the side here or there, but we would lose people to stand in the saf. So it's better that we are patient, inshallah, when someone is finishing their salah or making salah. First of all, when a person is making salah alone, not a masbooq, not someone comes late, but someone is making his sunnah or so, do the best he can to be close to a sutra, a wall or an individual, so that he protect his salah from anyone to cut his salah. And if he's making whatever is left from the rak'at, then that's fine. He can stand in his position, and he can move if it's a step or so to make sure that he has a sutra to make it easy for others, yes, sure. But if not, then to make sure that a person doesn't walk right in front of him. If he has a sutra, then to walk behind the sutra, this is very obvious. The sutra is an object. But if he doesn't have a sutra, not to say, well, he has no respect whatsoever, no, you still have to walk, but from a distance, and that's what it makes it more difficult for the people. And if you have to stay for 40 days, mashallah, stay inshallah for 40 days. It's not 40 days, it's just maybe 40 seconds or so, to be patient with that, because of the Prophet ﷺ did not mention what if the person would see or would he know. That means it's something bad that would happen, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. And there's other narrations that gives the same meaning, and it has some even rulings where the hadith إذا صلى أحدكم, the hadith of Abi Sa'id al-Khudri رضي الله عنه, إذا صلى أحدكم إلى شيء يستره من الناس فأراد أحد أن يجتاز بين يديه فليدفع في نحره فإن أبى فليقاتله فإنما هو شيطان. If one of you is praying to a sutra, so that this is specifically for those who are praying close to a sutra, and it's a sunnah to be close to it. And the closeness to it means that when you make sujood, your head in sujood between your head and the sutra is a small space, yes, doesn't have to be attached to the sutra, a small space that a small goat, as some of the hadith mentioned, can pass by. So to be close to the sutra, and if a place is crowded and people are walking, he can come even closer to the sutra to prevent people, to make it easy for people. But the hadith here specifically for the one that is praying to a sutra, not the one that is praying in the openness. If he prays to a sutra, and then someone wants to insist to pass between himself, between that person and his sutra, why would he want to do that? And if someone insists to do that, فَلْيَدْفَعْ فِي نَحْرِهِ, let him push him in his throat like this, but not to kill the person, meaning first to stop him, right? Maybe he's forgetful, he's not paying attention, but if someone is intentionally coming this way, so you stop him. If he فَإِنْ أَبَى فَلْيُقَاتِلْهُ, if he refused, then fight with him. Do not allow him to pass in front of you with the sutra. Some people would say, but we need to be nice to each other. Yes, but don't allow anyone to pass in front of you when you have a sutra. If you don't have a sutra, you don't have rights to do that. So if you're praying in the openness, and that's valid to happen sometimes, someone walks in front of you, yeah, sure, do this. But if he is beyond your hands, don't run after him. Leave him, right? But if he's between your sutra, that means you can extend your hand and you can stop him. And usually people would realize and they would walk away. If it's a child, don't leave the child alone, of course, right? Yes, you have to protect your sutra even from a child. And there's some narrations where the Prophet ﷺ would walk further so that he does not leave a space for anyone to walk in front of him. So the person coming, he would find nothing but to walk behind him. So the child might not understand this, you might disturb him, so it's best for a child to walk forward if you have a sutra, and he would walk behind you. The same thing applies when a person prays at home, and children at home, and mothers at home, to be close to the sutra. If they cross, then there's no harm on them, of course, but to make sure that this is done without ghulu, without extremism, of course, but to prevent the person. And the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever insists after all of this, فَإِنَّمَا هُوَ شَيْطَان, he's a shaitan that is trying to walk in front of your salah. So there is something that we do not know what it is. So that means we have to exalt what is being mentioned here. And it's a matter of unseen. And it shows the importance of the salah. Once a person says Allahu Akbar, he is in completely different state. Not like when he is not in salah. You see, this is matters of unseen and ghaib that we don't know how it is, and we have to believe in it and have the certainty in it to give the importance, of course, to our salah and to have the devotion and the khushu' in the salah. And there's many rulings that can be discussed, but inshallah this is just briefly to make sure that a person is having a sutra. It's not mandatory, yes, according to the majority, but to do the best that a person can. And there's two things: the person making salah, and the others, they should not cut his salah by walking and running in front of him, and to have patience and to wait. If someone would say, I have emergencies, exceptions has its own rulings. Yes, we don't say that a person then should cause harm as a result of that. This is exceptions. But the norm is to wait and to be patient and to give importance to one salah. One last thing is that some brothers, sometimes they ask, you come early, you want to make sure that you have a spot on the first line, the first saf, and there's no sutra in front of you for the first saf. So should you leave your spot and go pray Tahiyatul Masjid or the Sunnah, and someone else might take your spot? No, pray in your spot even if there's no sutra. If there's no sutra that you can have, pray, and it's okay to pray in the openness in this case, and to prevent yourself from losing your spot in the first saf. And as Sheikh Salih Al-Fawzan, Hafidhahullah, when he was asked about this, he said this is ghulu, this is extremism. For someone to lose his spot in the first saf because there's no sutra, so you go forward and then no, pray in your spot, inshallah. If there's no sutra, be at ease, inshallah. The matter is not as difficult as it sounds. Yeah. Barakallahu feekum.